Without Yamaguchi Momoe, your favorite idols would likely not exist. And no, I'm not exaggerating. In just 8 years, she became the nation's top idol and was able to take control of her career in ways that other idols in her generation were not. Even though she's been retired for over 40 years, any sliver of information about her sends the media into an absolute frenzy. Due to her immense success, followed by a swift and private exit, she's considered Japan's most legendary idol. Hi there, Idol fans! I'm Martha, your trashy godmother. I'm an Idol performer, director, and educator, and I create safe spaces on and offline to enjoy fandom and live as your most authentic self. On today's episode of Idol History, we're talking about Yamaguchi Momoe, the idol who set the bar for all those who came after her. Yamaguchi Momoe was born on January 17, 1959 in Tokyo. Her father was married to a different woman with whom he had other children, so Yamaguchi's mother raised her and her sister alone in Yokosuka. While in junior high school, she sent in an application by postcard to star Tanjo, an idol talent search show on television. She made it into the competition, and though she finished second, she still received many offers from record labels and talent agencies. She chose to sign with Hori Productions, and then the whole family moved to Tokyo. At the start of her career, she promoted with two other young singers, Junko Sakurada and Masako Mori, and the three of them were known as Hana no Chusan Trio, or the lovely trio of third-year middle school students. Her first single, Toshigoro, along with a film of the same name, were released in 1973 to lukewarm reception, so the company decided to change her image and have her sing more bold lyrics in her second single, Aoi Kajitsu, or Unripe Fruit. In the chorus, she sings, "You can do whatever you want with me. It's okay if rumors spread that I'm a bad girl." Side note, she was 14 when this song was released, so these lyrics are pretty uncomfy. But unfortunately, this trend worked as Aoi Kajitsu broke into the top 10 of the Oricon charts at number 9, and a lot of her music was in this kind of vein for the next few years. These early songs with suggestive lyrics were written for her by executives at Hori Pro, and they hit a fever pitch with her 1974 hit, Hitonatsu no Keiken, the experience of one single summer. The lyrics state, "I'll give you the most precious thing a girl has." It entered the Oricon charts at number 3 and cemented her bad girl image. Momoe was 15 at the time of promotions, but was fully aware of the sexual undertones in these lyrics. A male interviewer on television had the nerve to ask her what the most important thing a girl had was, and a very unimpressed Momoe looked at him and said, her devotion. It was this song that got her invited into the New Year's program Kohaku Utagassen, and she continued to perform there every year until her retirement. Over the next 2 years, Momoe's popularity continued, and her songs matured into things less overtly sensual, with themes of unrequited love, learning how to love, being brokenhearted, and questioning the validity of relationships. Along with releasing singles and albums, Momoe would star in movies and TV dramas. Her frequent co-star was Tomokazu Miura, who first worked with her in a commercial for confectionery brand Glico early on in her career. Their on-screen chemistry was favored by audiences, dubbed the Golden Kombi, and he worked with her on 14 of her 17 films at a rate of 2 per year, 1 in the winter and 1 in the summer. With all this success, Momoe encountered a new problem. Her father, who had abandoned her, her mother, and her younger sister, wanted to cash in. He would hold unofficial press conferences filled with uncorroborated information because he knew the media and fans would eat it up, and continuously cause disruptions for Momoe and Hori Pro staff. He eventually ended up suing Momoe's mother for parental authority since she was still a minor at the time, but the court favored her mother and Momoe officially ended her relationship with her father, stating that she wouldn't even acknowledge his existence. The so-called second phase of Momoe's career began in 1976 as she gained the ability to select her own songwriters. Her first choice was Yudo Uzaki, a composer who made up part of a songwriting team with his wife Yoko Aki, who wrote the lyrics. The husband and wife team were inspired because Aki and Yamaguchi, though they never met, had both lived in Yokosuka, and thus, the song Yokosuka Story was born. Yokosuka Story became Momoe's best-selling single at over 600,000 copies sold and topping the Oricon charts at number 1. Uzaki and Aki continued to write for Momoe for the rest of her career, over 69 songs total. According to author Mark Schilling in An Encyclopedia of Japanese Pop Culture, what really launched Momoe to stardom and signaled the second stage of her career were the songs written for her by husband-wife team of lyricist Yoko Aki and composer Ryudo Uzaki. These so-called punk songs, including Yokosuka Story and Playback Part 2, proclaim that Momoe was no longer a girl who could be used by men, but a woman ready to stand on her own 2 feet and take charge of her own life. Initially, Momoe's agency and record company had opposed using this pair, saying that their music didn't fit her image, but she had insisted and changed her image instead. Her music became more sophisticated as time went on, and she recorded albums in London and LA as well as Tokyo, utilizing local musicians to achieve the sound that she wanted. What was even more impressive was that her 20th and 21st albums were a concept album and a rock opera, respectively, showing off her versatility as a performer. Critics and cultural figures called her a star who symbolizes the present age, with one specific critic, Masaki Hiraoka, hailing her as a bodhisattva. Sorry, this is just, for those of you who don't know what a bodhisattva is, it's defined as a Buddhist deity who has attained the highest level of enlightenment, but who delays their entry into paradise in order to help the earthbound. This dude was down so bad, and honestly, the whole country was at this point. It's pretty wild. She had reached the absolute peak of her popularity as an idol and was enjoying immense success. And if you've watched the previous 2 episodes of Idol History, you know exactly where this is going. At her concert on October 20th, 1979, Momoe announced her relationship to her frequent on-screen leading man Tomokazu Miura, who also confirmed the relationship, saying, "We are dating on the premise of marriage." On March 7th, 1980, the two announced their engagement, and Momoe announced that she would be retiring from the entertainment industry that year. Like the Peanuts and Candies did before her, she stated that she selfishly wanted to retire and live a normal life, announcing a final concert to be broadcast live. Her farewell concert was on October 5th, 1980 at the Nippon Budokan and was broadcasted on TBS channel. She tearfully addressed her fans, saying, "Thank you for forgiving my selfishness. I will be happy." After her final song, she bowed deeply to the crowd, left her mic on the floor center stage, and quietly walked off. The day after her concert, a retirement special was held on Fuji TV on their program Night Hit Studio. In attendance were some of the most famous entertainers in the industry. Junko Sakurada and Masako Mori of the Chusan Trio, Hiromi Iwasaki, Pink Lady, Kenji Sawada, Hiromi Go, and more came to congratulate Momoe on her final appearance. She was moved to tears when she received a bouquet of flowers, and the hosts of the show commented on the feelings in the studio at the time. Mari Yoshimura noted, "Usually, the studio would be lively with angry shouts from the staff, but this time it was very quiet and moving. Even after it was over, it was hard for everyone to leave, and the farewell party continued with the VTR running." She officially retired from the entertainment industry on the 20th anniversary of Horipro on October 15th, 1980. Her last album, This Is My Trial, was released on the 21st of that month, and her final single, Ichie, was released on November 19th, the day that she and Tomokazu were married. At the time of her retirement, at just 3 months shy of 22, she accounted for over 25% of Horipro's sales, with 32 singles and 21 studio albums. She sold a total of 11.42 million copies of her singles total, with 3 #1 hits, becoming the best-selling artist of the 1970s in Japan. Since her retirement, Momoe hasn't made a single public appearance, though she did write a few songs for other artists early on under the pen name Kei Yokosuka. The year after she retired, she released a compilation of autobiographical essays titled Aoi Toki, which sold over 1 million copies during the month of its release. At the end of this book, she stated that she no longer had a desire to be a singer or actress, but wanted to devote all of her time to being a wife and eventually a mother. She and Miura had 2 sons together, and when they were old enough to go to school, television crews and photographers often got in the way as they were trying to get a glimpse of Momoe. She attended driving school to be able to pick up her children, but she would get constantly distracted by all of the cameras surrounding the school, making it difficult to practice. At her eldest son's kindergarten entrance ceremony, photographers broke into the school and started pointing cameras at the students, so she walked up to one photographer and slapped him, scolding him for scaring the children. Another photographer got a photo of the incident, and it was published in the next week's paper. Some fans would hang around her neighborhood, her house, and one even successfully broke in. Miura wrote a partial autobiography called Hishatai to recount the troubles that their family had faced because of this. Momoe was quoted saying, "I don't want to regret being in the entertainment world any longer." There have been numerous attempts to bring Momoe back to show business, like on the 31st, 51st, and 56th anniversaries of the Kohaku Utagassen respectively. But each time she refused, saying, "I have already retired, so I will decline." Momoe has stayed completely out of the spotlight as best she could, save for a few quilting exhibitions under a pseudonym. Unfortunately, some candid photos are still posted of her during her daily activities such as grocery shopping and running errands. Even when her eldest son, Yutaro Miura, a singer-songwriter, announced on his social media that he and his wife were expecting a child, the media reported it as Yamaguchi Momoe to become a grandmother. Now, we're going into more of my opinion here, but it is absolutely wild how the media refuses to leave this woman alone. She has repeatedly stated that she wants nothing more to do with the entertainment industry, and yet they continue to demand access to her life and her family. Her husband and sons work in the entertainment industry, yes, and they should be asked about their work and their lives, but they are constantly bombarded with questions about Momoe, about her, in their interviews. And honestly, that's incredibly rude to them as well as performers and artists. Going back to the statement she made at her final concert, apologizing for being selfish, why is it that only women are seen as selfish for taking their life in the direction that they want? We saw this somewhat with the peanuts and candies, but it was taken to an entirely different level with Momoe. The fact that she's been retired for over 40 years and she still has to fight to keep the media out of her business is absolutely astounding to me. Her husband still works as an actor, and aside from his agency-scheduled interviews, appearances, premieres, and the like, he's left alone. He's had to step in on Momoe's behalf to get the madness to stop. At one point, he had to go directly to the Human Rights Bureau because nothing else would work. Honestly, I just hope that Ms. Momoe is able to live out the rest of her days in relative peace, enjoying her family and her hobbies, because that's obviously what she wants. With the media constantly in her business, re-releases of her music, and daily reruns of her dramas and movies, the idol industry has never forgotten about Yamaguchi Momoe and her legacy. Current day idols still cite her as inspiration, cover her songs, and even end their careers in similar ways. For example, former AKB48 member Watanabe Mayu ended her graduation concert in 2017 by leaving her mic center stage and walking off as an homage to Momoe. Other idols have since repeated the gesture as it leaves a powerful final image for their fans. Yamaguchi Momoe, who now goes by her married name Miura Momoe, went from a wide-eyed teen hopeful who was at the whim of record executives to a performer who took her power back and chose her own message. She then even evolved into a stronger person, taking a path that was hard for many to accept, but stood her ground, confident in what she wanted for herself. I can see why she's such an inspiration to idols and idol fans everywhere, even though she's been out of the industry for almost half a century. I was honestly so intimidated making this video because I wanted to do her justice and not overstep my boundaries as a fan. I've left links to her music on streaming services in the description box below, as well as a few notable performances. Seeing her evolve as a performer is such a treat, and watching her come into her own during that second phase of her career is absolutely captivating. She really did have that star quality that so many wish to possess. And if you want to see me take a crack at one of Yamaguchi's hits, you'll have to wait until next week, if you're watching this when it drops. If you're watching it later and the cover's already out, it will be here on the screen, in a card, and in the description box. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Let me know if you're a Momoe fan, and if you are, tell me what your favorite song is, or if you learned something new from this video down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much to my patrons on Patreon for making videos like this possible, and if you would like to join their number and get some extra gravy with your content, the link to my Patreon page is in the description box down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all on the next episode of Idol History. Bye bye!